Hello and greetings to all. I am adding to the video that I posted yesterday regarding brown spirituality and how it's our future as brown people. It only makes sense that as we advance as brown people, past and in spite of colonization, we embrace a spirituality that at one point was made for us, by us. For this video, I do want to clarify on certain terminology that I employ and have possibly employed in other videos. For instance, the first one that comes to mind is white spirituality. With the political correctness of nowadays, a lot of people are opting to move away from classifying human beings based on a color: white, brown, black, red, etc. And for the most part, I agree with it, since we, as complex human beings, and given our respective history and the development of whom we have been, referring to our ethnic identity, we are far more complex and vast to just slap a label in accordance to our color, skin color or whatnot, because a lot of it's politically driven. I embrace brownness. Now, moving on to my usage of brownness. In a way, in this modern day context, I refer to brownness as being neither black nor white, and being more an original inhabitant of a place that was not originally populated by either white European or black African presence. I reclaim brownness, since regardless of where we stand at in this continent, in the hemisphere, or the world at large, we intrinsically are brown peoples. In another video, I did speak about the difference between red and brown, how U.S. Native American peoples are normally referred to as red, while south of the border, somehow, because of the partition of the Rio Grande, we turn brown and they red. Intrinsically, a lot of people are interconnected, as happens with the Tohono O'odham, who have, and I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce it right, nations on either side of the border. The Yaqui also have. So I don't think that the Rio Grande is some sort of baptismal ritual that somehow deems us brown while the others are red and whatnot. But erasure of brown peoples has been occurring for these past 500 years. Let's begin with the Trail of Tears. That erasure took place in the forced relocation of a native people, or groups of native peoples, to separate them, to uproot them from their original land. Because once you do that, and once you keep people from speaking their language and practicing their customs, you're pretty much erasing them. Then comes the admixture with white and black and erasure. Save the Indian, kill the man was also an agenda of erasure. And the call to assimilate, making reservation living and even barrio living so harsh and so intolerable that we have no option than to blend in with the rest of the populace. Well, embracing your brownness means, regardless of where I stand at, regardless of what epithet you've used to label me, from Latino, Hispanic, Native American, First Nations, a lot of it is highly romanticized. First Nation sounds to me majestic, Native American, but there's always that stigma of the American second part, which pretty much also brings about erasure. We're brown peoples. We're neither black nor white, in my context, in my stipulative definition. It is now occurring in Egypt, where it's always been like the Egyptians were white, the Egyptians were black, and it's kind of like brown peoples continue to inhabit Egypt. So wouldn't it make more sense that they are the original Egyptians? I mean, and the same is occurring in our lands, in Anahuac, in North America, where African American groups, radical, may I add, are appropriating brown identity. I speak about that in 2 other videos, and will speak about this in future videos, so stay tuned. But as far as going back to the term white spirituality, I refer to colonized spirituality. It's probably more of an appropriate term. I'm still looking for a more appropriate term, as a matter of fact, to coined that includes this spirituality, but we can call it either colonized spirituality or the manifest destiny. I've spoken to a handful of Caucasians who are also exploring to decolonize themselves. Yes, white people can decolonize as well. Um, let's. In the previous video, I did speak about how different nations have devised and have perpetuated worldviews that suit their individual ethnicity. And then we come to America, ourselves as Chicanos, our ethnic identity, if we do a DNA test or look at our ancestors, we're ethnically indigenous, native, Indios, whatever you first. I hope you don't use that latter I word, but we're indigenous. Our language, though, is European, either Spanish or English. Our religious slash spiritual customs are Roman Catholic, Christian, Middle Eastern, Hebraic. And the same occurs with Caucasians. There's not all Caucasians are Anglos. So at one point, their ancestors spoke a different language. So decolonizing can also mean to them to reclaim an original language, maybe Irish, maybe German, maybe even a tribal language from before, colonization of their territories. And their spirituality is also, foreign to them because intrinsically, Judeo-Christianity is Hebraic. It is from the Middle East. It is Greek. It is Aramaic. That's a whole nother topic, and I'm pretty sure plenty of Caucasians who are decolonizing are already exploring these ventures. But going back to being Chicano, it's I call it the trinity of identity: language, ethnicity, and spiritual slash religious beliefs. And we are a divided people. Since we're ethnically one thing, we linguistically are another, and spiritually are another. So through decolonization, we are wanting to, embrace an indigenous language. We might not be able to use it every day since we don't live in that community, but it's good to just learn the words and have moments in which you relish. Maybe you can have a couple friends practice with you and just feel a little more indigenous during that moment. I have always wanted to go to a place that speaks Nahuatl and practice it, the few words that I've learned and the more that I'm learning. Spiritually, of course, as I stated in the previous video, we're not going to build a pyramid. We're not going to sacrifice people, which I'm going to speak about that as well. In relation to brown spirituality, we're simply disentangling ourselves from the way that they forced us to see the world through this twisted purview. So I hope that I was able to clarify a couple things. I will continue this conversation in other videos. So please stay tuned because, like I said, I really want to put out as much information regarding the brown spirituality, and I would really greatly appreciate your feedback.